Hello, music fans. Welcome to Death by Unicorn, the channel where I talk about metal, rock, and prog music. Today I'm going to talk about 24 albums that are coming out in November 2024. And these are the albums that I'm going to be listening to over this month. Maybe some more will come up that I haven't heard about yet, but these are the ones that I've found that I'm most interested in checking out. So let's dive right in. If you like metal, rock, and prog music, you should find something interesting for you on this list. Starting off with November 1st, we have Vola, Friend of a Phantom. Uh, it's November 3rd when I'm recording today, so this one's actually already out. All the ones on November 1st are already out. This is the fourth album by this Danish band. It's progressive metal, a little bit of gent, alternative rock, post-metal, art rock, and even some pop influences. Very accessible. If that sounds cool, definitely check it out. And also on the same day, Beardfish is releasing songs for Beating Hearts. The ninth album by the Swedish band. It's symphonic progressive rock with hard rock and some metal influences. Not really metal, but a little bit of a harder edge from time to time, hard rock. So check it out if that sounds good to you as well. And we also have Rosalie Cunningham released To Shoot Another Day, also on November 1st. The third album by this artist from the UK. She's a singer-songwriter, was previously a member of ipso facto then of a band called Person, but now she performs as a solo artist. It's kind of psychedelic art rock. Very interesting sound. So check it out if that sounds good to you. And November 1st also had Herin. I'm not sure how to pronounce this band name, releasing Hiding in Plain Sight, the debut album by this project from the UK. It's progressive rock. It's by the Tiles guitarist and songwriter Chris Herin. This is his debut solo album, and there's lots of very cool guest features here. Lots of big names. There's a renowned producer Terry Brown, Grammy award-winning mastering engineer Peter Moore. And then I heard the early release single, The Darkest Hour. I enjoyed it. If you're a fan of Jethro Tull, definitely check it out. It features Martin Barre and Dwayne Perry of Jethro Tull. And then there's even more supporting musicians on this album. Peter Frampton, Alex Lifeson of Rush, John O'Hara, Michael Sadler of Saga, Kim Mitchell of Max Webster, Cody Boyles, um, Kevin Como of Crown Lands, and Jeff Coleman and Shane Gallus of Cosmo Squad, Tim Bonus of No Man, Colin Edwin of Porcupine Tree, Randy McStine, who's played with Porcupine Tree, Kevin Chown, and Matthew Parmenter, and many other notable guests. Definitely a cool album. I've already listened to these albums on November 1st. They came out on November 1st, but I've only listened to them each once, so I'm not really, haven't formulated my opinion on them yet. My next video, hopefully it'll come out tomorrow, will be my first impressions after I'll listen to them all twice and give my first impressions on them. And next up on November 1st, there's Isbjorg with Falter and This is the second album by this Danish band. And before hearing the album, I heard the opening track Ornament. I liked it, so I put it on my list. And then we have Dirty Loops. They released an EP called Beagle. This is kind of jazz fusion, but it's really funky and poppy, very much, very accessible. A little bit of prog rock influence in there. It's kind of reminds me of Michael Jackson and Bruno Mars and pop artists like that, but with more funk and jazz fusion added in. Definitely check it out if that sounds good to you. And last one on November 1st is Randy McStine and Mutual Hallucinations. It's the fourth solo album by this American guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter. It's progressive rock, and I saw him play as the touring guitarist of Porcupine Tree when I saw them live. He did a great job. I've heard good things about his music, so that's why I checked this out. Now let's jump over to November 8th. We have Clone releasing The Unseen, the eighth album by this French band. It's progressive metal. It's not too heavy. It's all very accessible, all clean vocals, kind of alternative metal, post-metal, groove metal influence in there. I think fans of Tool will like it. I love their last album, Meanwhile, from 2023. And the singles that I heard from The Unseen also sound good. They sound quite similar to their last album, Meanwhile. If you're a fan of Tool, Deftones, The Ocean, Sigur Rós, Cult of Luna, check it out. It's kind of like a mix of those bands. Just clean vocals, no screaming, very atmospheric, progressive post metal. Uh, with this early 2000s alternative metal and new metal guitar tone. Then Pineapple Thief is releasing Last to Run, an EP. They previously released an album already this year. They're a great band from the UK, progressive rock with some alternative rock influences. The album they released earlier in the year is excellent, so hopefully this EP continues their greatness. And then Tungsten is releasing the Grand Inferno. This is the fourth album by this Swedish power metal band. They have some heavy metal and symphonic metal influences. This band is formed by ex-Hammerfall drummer Anders Johansson and his two sons. And I thought their last album, Bliss from 2022, was very good, very catchy hooks and fun music. And I'm hoping they take it to the next level on this one. Then we have Neal Morse and the Resonance releasing No Hill for a Climber, the debut album by this project. It's symphonic progressive rock. Neal Morse, of course, is a prolific industry veteran. He's released many solo albums as well as many albums with Spock's Beard, Transatlantic, and the Neal Morse Band. But this is his first album with this particular band, The Resonance. Most of the albums Neal's involved with are excellent, so I'm looking forward to hearing this one. Two more on November 8th. Second last one that I'm going to mention is Make Them Suffer with their self-titled album, the fifth album by this Australian metalcore band. They're kind of progressive metalcore with that gent, deathcore, symphonic death metal, and even some black metal influence in there. Pretty extreme, pretty heavy stuff. I don't know too much about the band, but I've heard some of their tracks before. They seem interesting, so I added this to my list. I heard the singles Mana God, which has extremely heavy, all harsh vocals, and then Oscillator, which was also extremely heavy, but ha luckily had a nice chorus with some clean female vocals. So hoping there's some good mix of clean and harsh vocals. Not sure I'm ready for listening to the brutality by them for an entire album. Hopefully they have some hooks like an Oscillator that will make it kind of catchier and easier to listen to. And last one on November 8th, it's The Shape of Punk to Come Obliterated by there's going to be various artists performing on this. This is Refused is the band that made the original Shape of Punk to Come album, but this is their album reimagined by 12 bands that are handpicked by Refused themselves. One of those bands is Cult of Luna, a band that I love, so I added this to my list to check out. I don't usually uh, rave about covers albums, but I think this one could be pretty cool. Kind of post-hardcore, hardcore punk, art rock, prog rock, metalcore, alternative metal all mixed in there. That's kind of what the Refused sound is. It's a very interesting album, so looking forward to hearing some great bands covering songs from that album. And on November 9th, the Mommyheads are releasing One-Eyed Band, the 16th album by this American band. It's indie rock with baroque pop, progressive rock, alternative rock, and art rock influences. I thought their last album, Coney Island Kid from 2023, was just excellent. It reminded me of newer Thrice music in that it's more that alternative indie folk, pop rock, hard rock with some progressive songwriting and artistic flair. If you like the sounds of that, then definitely check out the Mommyheads and One-Eyed Band. Now let's move over to November 15th. A big one, probably the most notable in terms of commercial appeal on this list is Linkin Park with their album From Zero, the eighth album by this American band. It's alternative rock with metal, rap, pop, and electronic influences. They're a massive band from the US. This is their first album after the unfortunate passing of their frontman, Chester Bennington, and it's the first to feature their new lead vocalist, Emily Armstrong. The new singles I heard so far have been okay, but I'm not sure how I feel about the replacement vocalist yet. She can definitely sing well, of course, but I'm just not sure if she fits the memory of Linkin Park. I'm only really a fan of the first two Linkin Park albums anyway. They kind of lost me after their first two albums, but I do plan to check this out. Since I enjoy their first two albums so much, I just want to hear if they can maybe recapture some of that spirit. So I'll be checking it out. I'm not sure what to expect from Zero by Linkin Park, but if you like Linkin Park, definitely check it out. And then we've got Thy Catafalque releasing some album that I have no chance of being able to pronounce, but it's subtitled 12. It's their 12th LP. Maybe I'll just try to pronounce it because it might be funny. Gyönyörű, álmok, ezután, jönnek. I don't know. They're a Hungarian band. They're avant-garde, progressive black metal, post-metal, death metal, symphonic, experimental rock influences. And I thought their last album, Halfold, was excellent. It was all over the place. It's a black metal album at its core with mostly black metal shrieking vocals, but there are some clean vocal sections, sections that almost sound like dance music. There's a flute in their previous album, some parts that had violin. All in all, it was just kind of a wild adventure listening to it, and I really hope this album is as much of a wild adventure as that, and maybe hopefully even more. So I'm excited to check it out. Also, November 15th, As I Lay Dying is releasing Through Storms Ahead, the eighth album by this American metalcore, melodic metalcore band. They got some thrash metal influence. There's been some recent drama in this band where four of the five members of As I Lay Dying have left in October 2024, leaving just Tim Lambesis as the only member. So something bad must have been happening there. He infamously, many years ago, tried to hire a hitman to kill his ex-wife. He served his time for that, and now he's out of jail for that. But the other members of the band, even like they know that he's done that, but now they're saying all of a sudden they need to distance themselves from the band, that it wasn't a safe environment. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but whatever is going on there sounds really bad, but their music has always been great metalcore music, so I'm still interested in hearing it, even though this may be the end of this band unless Tim finds some people to replace everyone who left. And I think most of them are already replacement people anyways. So I'm not sure if this band's like going to survive after this or if it's pretty much over. But I'm interested to check it out. Some of their earlier albums in the early days of metalcore in the early 2000s were pretty cool and influential metalcore albums. So maybe this will capture some of that spirit despite all the drama. And also on November 15th, Chelsea Wolfe is releasing an EP, Unbound, and she's an American artist, kind of hard to categorize. She's a singer-songwriter. She makes music in many different styles. I heard the single Place in the Sun, and it's a truly beautiful piano ballad reminiscent of My Immortal by Evanescence. But generally, her music is like folk rock with some gothic, experimental, electronic, and doom metal influences. And last release on November 15th that I want to talk about on my list is Poppy, and she's releasing an album called Negative Spaces. This will be her sixth album. She's an American artist, kind of alternative metal with electronic, pop rock, and industrial influences. Over the course of Poppy's music career, she's done some albums that are more bubblegum pop and some that are intense alternative metal with harsh vocals. From the singles, this one seems like more of a metal release, but it does have that undeniable catchy pop hook stuff in there as well. Now let's jump to November 22. We have Opeth. This is the one that I'm most excited for this month, The Last Will and Testament, the 14th album by this Swedish band. It's progressive death metal with prog rock and acoustic influences as well. And this is probably in my top few releases that I'm looking forward to most from this whole year, to be honest. And in 2011, on their album Heritage, Opeth really abandoned their progressive death metal sound. They stopped doing harsh growl vocals. They went to 100% clean vocals, 70s inspired prog rock. They did that for four albums in a row. But now on this one, they're bringing back their growling vocals, That'll make fans happy. That'll make me happy, even though I like both their progressive death metal and their prog rock eras. But my favorite Opeth sound is that 1998 to 2008 sound from My Arms Your Hearse up to Watershed. The two singles I heard from this new album, Last Will and Testament, have been really awesome. Section 1 and Section 3. This is a concept album, uh, so I think you kind of need to hear it from start to finish to know how good it is. But I really like Section 1 and Section 3. It's like the concept is the different sections of some rich aristocrat's will as his family's like reading the will after his passing. So that's an interesting concept. I'm looking forward to hearing it. And I've got a 50th anniversary remix remaster on my list. I don't usually put those on the list, but it's Judas Priest. They're a legendary heavy metal hard rock band. Well, this album's more hard rock. It's their debut album, Rock-a-Rolla. It's the 50th anniversary of it. Uh, After this, they got a lot heavier, but it's kind of neat to hear their starting point where it's more hard rock with blues, a little bit of that heavy metal and even some prog rock creeping in. But it was their next album after Rock-a-Rolla where they went more in the heavy metal direction. I think Rock-a-Rolla is a really underrated album in the Judas Priest catalog. Definitely not their best, but many think it's their worst. I've seen some people rank it at the bottom of their discography, but I'd have to disagree with that. It's in the upper half of their catalog for me. I actually really enjoy it. I think it's underrated. I think maybe just because it's different and not as heavy as the rest of their stuff. That's probably why, but I think it's good music and well written, well performed, and looking forward to hear the remix remaster. Now let's talk about November 29th. I got three albums left in this video here. We've got Bedsore releasing Dreaming the Strife for Love, the second album by this Italian progressive death metal band. I heard the single Realm of Illuterated, and it's quite the journey. Very brutal parts with death growls, but also some soft, jazzy parts. I think if you're a fan of the early Opeth, like the first two Opeth albums, you'll probably like this. And Ash Breather and Cerberus are releasing a collaborative album called Mouth of the World. They're both Canadian bands, and this will be the third album for both of them. It's kind of progressive sludge metal with death metal, doom metal, black metal, post metal influences. They've both released two full-length albums before this, so it's the third album for both bands. I listened to Necropolis as the early release track, and it's good. I enjoyed it, so I added this to my list. Otherwise, I'm not familiar with either band, so this will be my first time dipping my toes into them. But they're Canadian, they're kind of proggy, so that's good enough for me, being a Canadian prog fan. And lastly is Hidden Mothers with their album Erosion of Vulsion, the debut album by this UK band, and it's post-black metal with shoegaze, post-hardcore, screamo, post-metal, and post-rock influences. I heard three of the singles that are on their Bandcamp ahead of time. They've got Defang, Still Sickness, and Violet Sun. They all sound interesting, definitely metal, but it's an interesting blend of those subgenres. It makes it hard to really fit them into any of those particular subgenres. I've called them post-black metal, but it's almost like post-hardcore screamo, almost post-metal, post-rock shoegaze. It's um, yeah, hard to really say if it's even really black metal at all, but kind of. So I have a hard time categorizing them, but I'm interested to hear what this whole album sounds like. And that's it for these 24 albums that I'll be checking out in November 2024. Which one on this list are you most excited for? Let me know down in the comments. And are there any other albums that I missed that you think are great, that you think are that you're excited for that are coming out in November? Stay tuned. Every week I'll be posting my first impressions of the new albums from this list that I listen to each week, and maybe I'll discover some more as November goes on that aren't on this list. So if you want to hear my first impressions of each of these albums while they come out, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, peace out.